We're having a lopsided meeting tonight. I'm Sergeant of Arms this evening. Please warmly welcome.
Hi!
Yay!
Turn off the cell phones.
Right, exactly. Anybody have any cell phones? You don't want them doing their chirping or their yelling and screaming while we're having a meeting? I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Now I'd like to officially open this meeting and turn it over to our club president, Rhonda Wicker.
Yo!
Yay!
Good evening, everyone, and everyone that's still on their way to the meeting. Good morning. Good afternoon. Do we really know what time it is?
Sure, that's a song.
Ladies and gentlemen, viewers at home, welcome. Honored guests. Viewers at home, you won't see this till a week after we've had all the fun, so eat your heart out.
They could have been here and had a...
Could have had a fun time. The mission of a Toastmasters Club. The mission of a Toastmasters Club is the same at every club. Our mission is to create a positive learning environment. A mutually supportive, hi Diane, how are you? Positive learning environment, welcome Stephanie, in which every individual member has the opportunity to develop oral communication and leadership skills, which in turn foster self-confidence and personal improvement. Thank you for coming tonight. I'm going to turn the meeting over to our chosen Toastmaster of the evening, Mr. Bob Burns. Please help me warmly welcome Bob Burns.
Thank you, Linda. I'm wearing a lot of different hats tonight, so I will change those hats as I change positions. I was so excited about being Toastmaster that I had to go to the restroom twice tonight. And I might have to go and tee off. Okay, so we're ready to tee off the meeting. How about that? But it's all about dreams, right? So dreams is something that I always dream about. And that's, yeah, I dream about dreams. You ever dream about having a dream and then really have a dream? And then wake up and be scared that you had that dream? But no, I dream about being a Toastmaster, and I've always dreamt about speaking in front of people. And it's actually come true because I do it a lot, and I really like it. And I really like Toastmasters because everybody here has that opportunity all the time. But we have a lot of different roles. That's what's so unique about Toastmasters, is the roles that you play. Everybody thinks that you just speak here, but you could dream about doing all sorts of things up here and speaking about all sorts of subjects. Whether you're serious, whether you're humorous. And I always wanted to be a comedian. I was just afraid people would laugh at me, so I decided not to do it. So, but let me introduce the roles, and we appreciate Rhonda filling in, and she's our timer. So Rhonda, could you go over your role as a timer tonight?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Toastmaster Bob Burns. The timer. The table topics are 1 to 2 minute speeches. The green light is turned on at 1 minute, the yellow light is turned on at 1 minute 30 seconds, and the red light is turned on at 2 minutes and remains on until the end of the speech. Prepared speeches are usually 5 to 7 minutes. The icebreaker is 4 to 6 minutes. Some advanced level speeches are longer. The green light is turned on at 5 minutes. The yellow light is turned on at 6 minutes. The red light is turned on at 7 minutes and remains on until the end of the speech. Are there any longer speeches tonight?
6 to 8.
6 to 8. For Tom, the green light comes on at 6, yellow light at 7, the red light at 8. Evaluations are 3 minutes. Dear evaluators, please remember you have 3 minutes. The green light is turned on at 2 minutes, The yellow light is turned on at 2 minutes 30 seconds, and the red light is turned on at 3 minutes and remains on until the end of the evaluation. Each speech and evaluation has 30 seconds prior to the green light and 30 seconds after the red light to qualify as a vote to be voted for. I will give my timer's report at the end of the evening. Thank you.
And our next role is the odd counter, and Vera's filling in for Jesus. Thank you, Vera. Please introduce your role.
Thank you. My job as odd counter tonight is to keep track of all the extras, the filler words, the ends, ahs, but, you know, repeats and so forth. And I will report back at the end of the meeting.
Great, thank you. Next is our grammarian, a very important role, and I'd like to introduce Art Atkinson to introduce his role and explain his role. Thank you, Art.
Thank you, Bob. Good evening, Toastmasters. My role is twofold as grammarian. The first is to note correct, or if there were incorrect uses of English, to note those and report on them at the end of the meeting. And the other is to introduce the word of the day and track its usage in speech tonight. The word of the day that I've chosen is the adjective visionary, in keeping with our theme of the evening. Visionary, having clear ideas of a possible, often desirable possible future. An example of the sentence, Jeff Bezos is a visionary entrepreneur. That I will give a report at the end of the meeting on use of the word of the evening and of correct or incorrect grammar.
Thank you, Art. There you go. A visionary introduces a visionary. So thank you, Art. I appreciate that. Karen will be up here later. She's a general evaluator. She'll evaluate the meeting and the evaluators. And then a guy by the name of Bob Burns will come up and be the joke master. So I'll tell you a joke a little bit later. So I'll change roles again. And our ballot counter is Cindy Trainer, and we appreciate her doing that, because she's pretty honest about not giving it to anybody that doesn't deserve it. So, oh, maybe it's Vera.
It's Vera.
Oh, I don't know about Vera, but I know about Cindy. So, okay, we're in great shape, and let's get on with the meeting. It's time to get up here with the hors d'oeuvres, and that's table topics. So, who is it that's going to be the table topics master? Is it Alex Sakaya? Is it Sakaya?
Yes.
Yeah, you got it right, man. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Alex.
Thanks, Bob. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. The theme for tonight is dreams, and I have taken some pop songs about dreams, and I will read you some lyrics, and then I will ask you a question. So who wants to be first? We got plenty of time, so
No rolls.
even if you have a roll, just do it. Back there, let's go. Round up. All right, round up.
Yo!
Hi, Alex.
I'll do it. Aerosmith sang, "Dream on, dream on, dream on, dream until your dream comes true." What is your biggest dream in life, and will you keep dreaming it until it comes true?
Fellow Toastmasters, viewers at home, honored guests, my dream in life is to become an employee at Toastmasters International. Is that big enough? In the meantime, I am being the president for Golden Speakers Toastmasters of Fairfield, which is an excellent club. We are here because we have high hopes for ourselves. At least I do. Actually, I didn't even know I had this dream until I thought of it just now. Some dreams come on suddenly. Some dreams are unexpected. Some dreams are medicine dreams. This one I think is a medicine dream. I never had any idea I would be at Toastmasters in 2013 as president of the club. And I think somebody else could have done it, but nobody else wanted to do the work. The fun part of being a Toastmasters president is that you get to know people more intimately. You get to understand people more from where they're coming from, what their needs are, what their hopes are, and their areas of strength and the areas where they want to grow. My dream is to get to know people in this club in an appropriate manner and support the protocol for this club so that everybody can learn and self-improve with self-confidence. And I thank you all for assisting me, your mutually supportive and active participation that makes this club keep rocking. We need a little more rock and roll in this club. And Aerosmith would be fun in the background right now. Thank you.
Right. Who's next? I can hear the heartbeats from here.
Cindy.
Cindy, come on up. Hi. All right. Let's see, I want to pick something good for you. All right. The Eurythmics sang, "Sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree?" What are your dreams made of? And do you agree or disagree? Double.
Well, the last time I was up here and sang, I realized as I was hearing myself sing that I was off key. Sweet dreams are made of these. I'm going to make a fool out of myself again anyway, because it's fun. I don't want to brag, but I think a lot of my dreams have come true. When I was 7 years old, my father paid a pilot to take my mother and I up in an airplane to look at the Adirondack Mountains in upstate New York from the air. He and a friend would always fly in the spring to a remote lake. They would have all their camping gear and food and supplies for a whole week, and they would have the canoe lashed to one of the float pontoons because the airplane was landing on water. And he wanted us to experience what that would be like to fly and see some of the same stuff that he saw. Well, I didn't see much of the scenery because of the weight balances required in the airplane. My mother sat in the back seat and I sat in the front. And I was mesmerized by this whole spread of instrumentation in front of me. The altimeter doing its thing and bobbing up and down, and all the other gauges doing their things. And my mother kept on going, shh, 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 because she was afraid I would distract the pilot, because I had all these questions I was asking. I'm pointing at the panel saying, what's this? And what is that doing over there? And what's, I was just, well, after I graduated from college, I asked my mom a question. I said, I want to either have a pilot's license or a motorcycle license. What do you think? And my mother was like, no motorcycle, you gotta fly. Oh, thank you, that's what I wanted. 2 years later, I got my license. Mr. Toastmaster Table Topics.
Great. Who wants to come next? This is the best part of the meeting because you can mess up, you can sing, you can make a fool of yourself. Woo! Come on, Karen. All right, for you. Okay. Mamas and the papas sing. All the leaves are brown and the sky is gray. I've been for a walk on a winter's day. What is your dream season and why?
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, and other guests, viewers at home. I'm Karen Aoki, and the question is, what is my optimal dream scene? Something like that. I'm going to segue into dreams, another category of dreams, which is a desire I have for dreaming in general, which is to have more lucidity. The few experiences I've had with lucid dreaming have been so amazing that I'd like to keep progressing with that technique. And that might relate to the dream scene topic. So, I would like to perfect the art of flying in dreaming, and there have been different scenarios that I've played around with. One is where I run along the ground and take off. The other one is where I simply float up in the sitting position and move forward. Another one I've enjoyed is where I sit on foam and start flying, just like with the techniques we have at Marshall University Management. We learn some techniques there, and one is based on flying, or the levitation of the body. And in the dreams I've had, I've been able to experience that in fuller degrees. And I can even flip around. And it's the wonderful thing about dreaming is that you wake up and the experience just feels like something you've had in normal reality. So it affects the nervous system. So I'm very interested in developing more dreaming techniques. Played around with stopping the attention on objects. That's another fun one. If you've ever recall your dreams, they move almost without your will. You'll be interacting with somebody and then everything will just shift. So you can actually practice focusing on an object in the room. You can start with your hand, and I've managed to do that a couple of times, my hand or my watch. But it's very hard, if you've noticed, it's very hard to maintain your attention on that object. So that's something to continue practicing. The third thing I've really been enjoying is the moment of waking up in the dream. It's phenomenal. You're going along in your dreaming, and then suddenly you realize you're in your dream, and it's fantastic.
You're done.
We done? One more?
Go.
Done?
Done.
Oh. Turned into a nightmare. All right, well, I will hand the meeting back over to, no, did everybody qualify?
Yes, all three speakers qualify.
Oh, fantastic. And what are their names?
Rhonda, Cindy, and Karen.
Okay, so we'll take 1 minute and vote for the best table topic speaker. And we're back. Welcome back. We will now have the evaluation portion of the table topics. And to give the evaluation, we will have a visionary in his own right, Mr. Ryan Olson.
All right, Ryan.
Yay!
Interesting having table topics about dreams. Thank you everyone for coming to my dream tonight. I actually dreamt last night kind of a little bit of a nightmare. It's like, oh my God, I haven't checked to see if I have a role. And I have this feeling that I'm going to be an evaluator. And woke up this morning, checked the email last second, aha! I'm an evaluator. And good at dreaming my reality. Or else Dan's tuning into my dreams, I'm not
Sure. So, I'm going to evaluate some wonderful table topics we have this evening, starting with Rhonda. And I really enjoyed her segue into what she wanted to talk about. I enjoyed how she launched right into something personal to her and something that we could all relate to. And I enjoyed hearing about why she is having fun with her role and things that she's enjoying getting from all of us and helping us grow. Just as I made some notes, just about the time I was making a note, oh, she's not moving very much. Well, then she started like using the stage. I thought, wow, look at that. She's reading my thoughts, or I'm dreaming her reality, I'm not sure. And the same went for gestures. For a while, she was not giving us a lot of gestures, but all of a sudden, I was like, oh, we're really rocking here, and I really want everybody to be rocking. She came through there as well. So, well done. There's always room for improvement, but we can feel the improvements as you progress. Moving on to Cindy's speech. I really loved the personalness of your introduction. And I have to commend you for singing and dancing when you get on the stage. Lots of interactive gestures as well. I loved how it was so personal with your childhood story that you were like pointing to the dials and lots of wonder at everything going on with the airplane. It really came across as a personal story. And then we finished up with Karen telling us all about her desires within her dreams and to really wake up inside the dream. Well, this is very exciting. I've had some of those experiences, and I really enjoyed how you kept a cheery, smiley countenance, and there's definitely some room for a little more movement and dynamic personality. For example, you know, when you talked about different ways of learning to fly, you could show, you know, I run across and I get enough speed and then I can just take off like Superman. So, but overall, thoroughly enjoyed all three of the speeches tonight. Thank you very much.
Excellent, thank you very much, Ryan. Now I will hand the meeting back over to our Toastmaster for the evening, Briggs.
Yo!
Alrighty then. Now it's time for the prepared speeches, so we're going to take some time to really listen to three dynamic speeches tonight. Two are 6 to 8 minutes, one's 5 to 7 minutes, and the first speech will be Diane Denbaum, and I'll introduce her evaluator, and that is Stephanie Chambers. So Stephanie, come on up and introduce your speech.
Well, it's an honor and a pleasure to introduce Diane's speech tonight. Diane's been in Toastmasters for nearly 7 years. She confessed to me that she didn't prepare as well as she would have liked for tonight's speech, but I'm sure with her skills it won't be noticeable. Her intention tonight is to demonstrate how you can tie a series of 1 to 2 minute personal stories to create a speech. She hopes it helps new and old members. Diane is doing Project 3 in the Humorously Speaking Advanced Manual. And the objectives are to prepare a speech that opens and closes with humorous stories, include jokes in the speech body to illustrate points or maintain audience interest, deliver the jokes and stories smoothly and effectively. The title of Diane's speech is Lessons Learned from People and Circumstances.
Thank you.
Yo!
Good evening, Toastmasters. We don't have any guests tonight, viewers at home, and any guests that are watching us from home. You're still a guest?
No.
I didn't think so.
No, new member.
Okay. All right, I'm going to carry on. My prayers were answered. In this assignment, they said, the manual said, start with an opening story that will make them laugh. My prayers were answered yesterday when I was teaching a group of 3rd, 4th girls in physical education. And normally, I've got this whistle on, and there's signals that I use. One whistle means freeze, stay where you are, look the teacher's way. 2 whistles means come my way, and make a formation because I'm going to give you an instruction. That happened. They came over. They didn't do it right, so I said, we're going to do a replay. So I took the whistle, I put it in my mouth, went through the whole thing, and when I was done, I went, okay, let's play.
Ah! Ah!
The 3rd, 4th girls went hysterical because the whistle was not around my neck. That's my opening story. My title of the speech is People and Circumstances That Have Taught Me Lessons. Here's the first lesson that I learned. Now, excuse me, I wrote this and I just need a little help with my glasses. Excuse me. The first lesson is stop trying to be Miss Perfect and overcommit. Many years ago, single mother, 2 kids in grade school, Lucas still in the car seat, and Miss Perfect Mom, who was divorced, and I'm going to just have everything be normal, decides on top of everything else I was doing, my children were going to take swimming lessons at the town pool at 7:30 a.m. in the morning. One morning, it was cold. It was a disaster. And I pull up outside the pool, the Park and Rec pool. I don't think anyone's around because it's about 7:25. One of my kids forgot something. Lucas decides he's upset about something, so he's crying in the car seat. I was not Miss Perfect. I was cursing, yelling, going, why don't, carrying on like this. Little do I know, there was someone watching me, and it's a man in town, God bless him, he has passed since. And he's just sitting there like this, just watching me. Like this, never said a word, and I'm in my world with the guilt, the shame, the you-know-what running through my body. I saw this man all over town for years, and every time he saw me, hi, Diane. What did I learn from this man? Stop trying to be Miss Perfect and do too much. The second lesson I learned, now this one involves good old Dad. I've talked about Dad in here before. Here was the second lesson I learned in life. You have to have a good memory if you're going to be a good liar. Now we're going back, I'm about 16. My parents decide Diane is trustworthy enough to leave in charge of her brother and her sister. No problem. Those of you that don't know the quick description of Dad, 6'4", New York City policeman, a real authority figure. Off go Mom and Dad, I'm in charge. I decide I'm going to have a party. The party grew and grew and grew and grew. My parents came home. They didn't say anything. I thought I got away with it until the next day I hear my father, "Diane, I will see you in your room." My father didn't discuss. My father interrogated. Up the 12 flights of stairs we go. He puts on one light to make it even feel like more of an interrogation. And begins to fire questions at me. Fire them. I'm mixing everything up. Yes, no, I think he wore brown. The knees are shaking. My face is red until I did have a party, Dad. Like I said, the lesson I learned from him is, if you want to be a good liar, you have to have a good memory. The last one is, you don't know, what you don't know won't hurt you. Now I'm back in Australia, Sydney. Friends say, "Come, we're going on a boat ride." Okay. We go through the gorgeous, never-ending Sydney Harbor. You must get there. There's 1,000 inlets. Pull up to this one inlet. People are up on the beach yelling and jumping, and yeah, we think, wow, let's go. There must be a party. People were playing volleyball, 6 of us. Jump in the water, 6 Americans actually. I met up with these other American school teachers. Jump in the water, swim. We're thinking, God, they're so excited that we're coming. We get to the end, they're all like this. Those are shark-infested waters. So like I say, what you don't know won't hurt you. My closing story, again, thank you to my students at school, and this one is Brian. I'm back now years ago in kindergarten, teaching kindergarten when MIU, the university, had a pond, and they had a kindergarten school by the pond. And in the middle of winter, this young man says to me, "Miss James," that was my name then, "there's a coconut in the ice." "Oh, really, Brian?" "There's a coconut in the ice." We get dressed for recess, we go out. Brian drops down into the water, pulls out a coconut. Before I told that story, I was to tell you the lesson, you never know, with my New York accent.
Yeah.
That's what I learned from Brian. You never know. Thank you, Mr. Toast.
Let's take 2 minutes to evaluate the speaker. How about that? Now we have a second speech by Tom Trainer, and his evaluator that will introduce his objectives is John Loris. John.
Golden speakers, viewers at home. Before I start, I want to say one thing. Cindy, you really didn't look like Ryan dancing like that. That was extra special. Tom Trainer is going to give a speech tonight. It's number 4 of the storytelling book, and it's the touching story. Tom is a 17-year member of Toastmasters. He's a double distinguished Toastmaster and is currently working on his 3rd DTM, which everybody knows is Doctor of Toast Making. He has served his clubs in every officer role, including being the Area 92 and Division E Governor. Tom started and or mentored 3 new Toastmaster clubs, including one operating at the Fort Madison Maximum Security Prison, and our newest club at Cambridge. Tonight, Tom is doing project number 4, The Touching Story from the Advanced Communicator Manual Storytelling. The objective of the story is to create feelings in the audience. Feelings are something my wife says I know nothing about. His title is The Bumps in the Road. Since this is a storytelling, Tom would like everyone to sit in a semicircle, just like a little campsite, to facilitate this event. So could we have everyone in a circle, and please help me in warmly welcoming Tom Trainer.
This story begins probably when I was in either second or third grade. I came home from school late, very late. The parents had bought a restaurant 2 years previously, and my usual, when I got home, which was there wasn't any home, there was the restaurant with an apartment, so I would go into the restaurant, say hello, get a snack, go upstairs. My father takes a look at me, and he does one of these. You're really late today. And he knows that I usually lollygag along, but I am never this late. And he asked me, did you have to stay after school? And I kind of like hedged, and he goes, did Sister make you stay? And Sister Mary, what's-her-face, had made me stay after school. He says, why did you have to stay after school? Did you misbehave? Didn't say anything, just shook my head. What'd you do wrong? I didn't want to tell him, but he was an authority figure. Besides that, he's there cutting meat, and he's got a great big butcher's knife. And, you know, you want to do what he says. I told him that she didn't like the way I wrote my cursive letters. And I see a change in him. As an adult, I would have known, but as a kid, I didn't know what was going on. And he said to me, did she hit you? I'm like this. And I got my hands down behind my back. He says, let me see your hands. And I didn't want to do that. So he grabs them and he opens them up. And the marks from the ruler were still on the hands. And then he shifted a different shift. And he took his apron that he had, because he'd been cutting meat. He wiped the blood off his hands from the meat, threw it on the top of the counter, and he always had his keys to his car in his back pocket. Grabs me, out the door, into the car. Now, it was only 2 blocks west, 4 blocks south to the Catholic school. And the last block was a double block. So we probably hit the driveway doing 20, and we were still doing 40 when we got to the school. He slammed on the brakes, put the car in park, and as the car skids up to the front door, we're getting out. We walk up the stairs to the 2nd floor. It's kind of one of those raised places, 8 steps up, 8 steps down. Into grade 2 or 3, and he looks in, she's in there, and we go in the room, and he slams the door. Now these were the old-fashioned frosted glass, and the glass was about 3 foot by 3 foot. And as the door slammed, the glass exploded everywhere. And he walks up to this nun, and he's about 5 inches from her face. Did you hit this child? And she starts some mumble jumble, blah, 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 blah. That wasn't good enough. Did you hit this child? And she still didn't answer. He said, I'm talking to you. Did you hit him? And he took my hand. She said, well, yes, he deserved it. And he took one more look at her. He said, if you ever hit him again, I'm going to hit you. Have you got that straight? We walk out. Now we go up to the 3rd floor, to the principal's office, which she also taught 8th grade. So he checks and he knows where she is. And we go into her 8th grade room, and he slams the door again. And again, the glass explodes everywhere. There wasn't much conversation. He walked up to her, looked her in the face, and said, I was just down talking to Sister Mary, what's-her-face. And we had a discussion. And I told her that if any of you ever hit him again, I'm going to hit her first, and then I'm coming up and I'm going to hit you second. Do you have that straight? She didn't say a word. She just went up and down. We went on home. He didn't say a word, not on the way over, not on the way back. He just says to me, go get a snack, change your clothes, go play. I can't reconcile what just happened. I have no idea. I have no context. I'm only 7 or 8 years old. 55 years later, I'm 63 or 4 years old, and I'm having a conversation with my mother. Now, my father died when I was 28, so this is 40-some years later, pretty close. And she tells me something that I never knew. I should have known, but I didn't know. My father's mother had tuberculosis. And in the 20s, that was almost fatal. So she had 2 young boys, Uncle Bob, who was a year older than my dad, and those 2 children had worn her down, so the tuberculosis was killing her. She went in the sanitarium. She didn't die for 3 or 4 more years, but she was done being a mother. My dad went into a Catholic orphanage at the age of 2. And he stayed there till he was age 10, which was old enough to go live with an uncle who had a farm where he could do enough farm work to pay his way on the farm. And all of a sudden I realized that when he was 2 or 3 or 5, no one had ever stood up for him. And he had been physically abused, probably a lot, and he had never told anybody. None of us ever knew any of this. But he stood up for me. He was there for me. And it took me 55 years to put point A together with point B. And that's how life is. And that's how the bumps in the road teach you. Mr. Toastmaster.
Now that is a touching story. So let's take 2 minutes to evaluate Tom's speech. Wow, we are right on time. Keep in mind, every speaker comes up here as a visionary. Might not be a Jeff Bezos or a Michael Dell, but I'll tell you what, they are in their own way, and they are to us. I'd like to introduce the 3rd speech, and the person to do that is the evaluator, Cindy Traynor, to introduce Rick Starr's speech.
Yo!
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you. Our 3rd speaker tonight is Rick Starr. He's doing project number 6 from the Competent Communicator Manual. And number 6 is vocal variety. His objectives are to use voice, pitch, volume, rate, and quality to reflect and add meaning and interest to his message, to use pauses to enhance his message, and to use vocal variety smoothly and naturally. Rick's title is A Day at the Bay, or A Day on the Bay. And Rick is a relatively new member. He's a joint member also with the new club starting in Cambridge, and I want to say Chambridge. Cambridge Investment. Please join me in welcoming Rick Starr.
When I was in college, like a lot of other students, I worked during the summers. One summer I worked as a bartender at a club, which was a pretty good job for a college student. Another summer I drove a cab in New York at night. I wouldn't say that was fun, but it was interesting. I met some pretty interesting people. But the best summer job I had was being a bayman on the Great South Bay. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, viewers at home. Long Island is famous for its beautiful beaches, but the beaches on Long Island aren't on Long Island, they're on a barrier island called Fire Island. And the water between Long Island and Fire Island is the Great South Bay. The Great South Bay's water is a mixture of salt water from the ocean and fresh water from rivers and streams. It's ideal for shellfish, like clams and oysters. A bayman is someone who reaps the harvest from the bay. Not a fisherman who catches fish, but a bayman harvests clams. So I was a bayman on the Great South Bay. My day would begin very early, at 5 o'clock in the morning. 5 o'clock! As a college student, it was a miracle if I could get up before noon. 5 o'clock! I'd get up, I'd get dressed. Even though I was going to be on a boat on the water, I didn't wear shorts and flip-flops. I was going to work. My uniform for the day was work pants and rubber boots. I dressed quietly. I didn't want to wake my housemates. I took my boots in my hand and tiptoed downstairs. But most of the time, they were all awake. The party was still going on from the night before. Hey Rick, what's going on, man? What's happening, man? Where you going, Rick? Go to work, far out! The idea of getting up early and going to work was a novel idea to most of my housemates. So I'd make my way through the party people, hop on my motorcycle, stop at the deli for lunch, and head to the Sayville docks. Even arriving at the docks was a delight. You'd hear the sound of the water lapping against the boats, the sound of the ropes creaking and straining, the seagulls. You'd smell the salt air. My friend Larry and I would load the equipment onto the boat and head out. Now, to dig clams, you use a clam rake, which is like a big metal basket open at one end with long teeth. And this is attached to a long metal handle about 15 feet long. We'd head out, find a likely spot, shut off the engine, and let the boat drift. Take the clam rake, throw it in the water, and start digging. You'd feel when it was full, so you'd pull it up hand over hand. It was filled with mud and it was heavy. Pull it up. When you got to the surface, rinse out the mud, empty it on the boat. Sometimes there wouldn't be anything in the rake except a few empty clamshells and maybe a beer bottle. Sometimes there'd be a few clams in the rake, but sometimes, once in a while, the rake would be filled with clams. Yes! Almost a bushel full. And in those days, we sold a bushel of clams for more than we could make in a whole day working in a regular job. Empty it out, throw it in the water, and do it again. And again. And again. All day. Take a break for lunch and do it all afternoon. At the end of the day, we head back to the dock to sell the clams. One of us drove and the other would sort the clams by size. There were little cherry stone clams, medium-sized little neck clams, and big chowder clams. Or as they say in New England, chowder. Clam chowder. Some days our harvest would be good, some days not so good. But every day was a good day. Be out on the water, sun shining down on us. Even on the hottest days, it was cool out on the water. No boss, make our own hours. In a lot of ways, this was the best job I ever had.
Briggs speech, and then we could also vote for the best speaker. To continue with the meeting, I'd like to invite our general evaluator, Karen Oki, to come up and take us in the next phase of the meeting and evaluate the evaluators and go through the evaluation process. Thank you, Karen.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. The evaluation of the portion of the meeting will start with speech evaluation. So I'd like to call up Stephanie to evaluate our first speech.
I really enjoyed the speech Diane gave tonight in terms of the way it made us all laugh, and that was the object of the speech. It really did make us laugh, which isn't easy, I might point out. I liked the way Diane used this series of little stories, and she pulled it together by trying to show that each one taught her a lesson. And I liked the way you acted out some of them, like dropping the whistle, things like that. I could just see the kids picking up on that. I think my favourite story was when Diane talked about her father, because she really created a picture in our minds about how scary her dad was and how good he was at interrogating, which was really great. I think the only thing that I thought maybe could, well, there were a couple of little things that I thought could have been improved. I mean, obviously you said you didn't have as much time to prepare, and it was a little bit, I know you made it fun by wearing the funny glasses, but it was a little distracting that you were bending right over to read those points. Maybe if you couldn't remember, maybe just, you know, maybe a word for each one on the board or something, so that you didn't have to bend over and read. Might have helped make it a little bit less distracting. I think it's tricky when you're doing something like this, when you've got these different stories, to make them feel really unified and whole. I mean, I thought most of them really did make a point. That was a good lesson that you learned. I mean, you seem to, like there were the odd one, like the first one, I think, didn't really make any real point other than don't forget to put your thing around your neck, I suppose. Maybe that was the only thing that it could have had a little bit more strength and structure or something like that to tie them all together. But I thought it was a great approach to this topic because it is hard to make people laugh. And I think by having these little vignettes, you were able to make a joke with each one, and that really helped carry it forward. So on the whole, I thought it was great. But if you want to do it again, maybe just try and put the notes on the board to make it clearer. That was great. Thank you very much.
Our next evaluator, John LaRose, to evaluate Tom's speech.
Golden speakers, viewers at home, I'm here to evaluate Tom's touching story. Tom, that was a very powerful story. And the more actually I thought about it, the more I had to write down and the more complex the story actually became. Tom's objective was to make us feel feelings in this story. And I think that right from the get-go, I felt the fear of a small child. I felt the shame of a small child. I felt the anger of a father who just found out his son had been mistreated. You know, we all wish we had a protector like that when we were growing up. Just think how secure we would be in growing up if we knew somebody was standing behind us like that. We're getting all choked up. There's some touching things here, Tom. Now, how did the speaker use dialogue to evoke emotion? Well, I think the father was very powerful, even in questioning the son and then questioning the nuns. He was like relentless. He wanted an answer. Did you hit my son? Did the story contain the basic elements, setting, characters, plot, conflict, action? Yes, it had all of that. The doors slamming, the glass going everywhere. Very descriptive. The car going down the road at 40 miles an hour. Even the father grabbing the keys from his back pocket. I mean, that is just action. It's just moving. And it's all moving towards, some kind of climax. Were the characters well developed? And how did the speaker use description and dialogue? Yes, I think the characters were developed. We got a sense of the father's strength right there in the beginning. We got the sense of Tom being a little Tommy. He came home, he had gotten beat up at school by the teacher, and he didn't want to tell his father. His father had to pull that out of him. We've all been there. How was the story developed? Was the point of the story clear? Well, I think, Tom, you started the story at the perfect point, because you started the story at the point where everything forward of that story, of where you started, was moving towards the climax. There was no backtracking, there was nothing like that. What I like to say, though, Tom, the wrap-up, the climax, I think, was the most powerful thing, because in the climax, you brought in love, and love is the most powerful emotion. Now, Tom loved his father, but 50 years or 40 years later, he loved his father even more, because he realized that his father was not just sticking up for him, and that he understood being abused. His father was actually sticking up for himself. The whole circle became complete. And I think that came to me at the end there, and it took me your whole speech and writing all this stuff down to realize that was the climax, and love is the most powerful emotion. And thank you, Karen.
Yo!
And finally, our last evaluator, Cindy.
Ah! Ah!
Ah, yes. Vocal variety. Fellow Toastmasters. Our guests have gone, but not our viewers at home. But most especially Rick. A day on the bay. Oh. Oh gosh. I was out there on the boat with you, rocking away, throwing the clam thing in the water and pulling it up. I liked all your physical, of course this is a vocal variety speech, but if you just stood here and did vocal variety, it would have been a little bit less than a good speech. But because you didn't stand here, you did all the physical gestures and the vocal variety, you have one heck of a speech. Your topic selection did facilitate vocal variety. I imagine maybe when you're out on the boat, if there are other clammers in the area, did you yell back and forth and talk to other boats? Maybe. Maybe not. You had good volume. It wasn't over the top loud, and it wasn't too soft, and I was in the back row and I could hear you fantastic all the time. Your rate wasn't too fast or too slow, but you varied it, but you never lost me. And your pitch was varied and conversational. That was excellent. And your voice has a really friendly and warm quality to it that I really enjoy and appreciate that in a speaker. Your pauses were effective and appropriate. It could have maybe had an area where you could have inserted a few more pauses, but that was not a main point for improvement, but it's one to think about. Pauses are really effective when you really want to make a main point, a major point. So you deliver your major point and then pause. And then the speaker really gets a chance to think about what you just said. That's a good way to use those. I liked your logical flow of ideas. That was all well done. And your word usage was so descriptive. That was excellent, how you described the boat and what you were doing, and your party, oh, where are you going? You know? Your use of humor was well done. I like that you involved all the senses. You described the smell of the water and the ocean and how it sounded when you drove up to the docks, the waves hitting the pier and the beach. I liked how you acted out the clamming, you know, the hand over the hand business. What you could have done maybe to effectively, it wouldn't really have made the speech more effective, but it would have added more professional and smooth movement, is to tell the Sergeant of Arms before the meeting starts that you need something changed up here. So then during the evaluation portion, we can do that for you, and then you can just launch right into your speech. Thank you very much, Ms.
I will take 1 minute to vote for the best evaluator.
Who qualifies?
Timer, who qualifies?
Ryan, Table Topics Evaluator, was overtime at 3:57. Stephanie qualified with 2 minutes 41 seconds. John qualified with 3 minutes 13 seconds. And Cindy qualified with 3 minutes 29 seconds.
Yeah. Cuts it close.
Okay, Stephanie, John, and Cindy. Now I'd like to call on each role player for their report. Start with our timer, Rhonda Whitaker.
Table topics. Rhonda spoke with 2 minutes 3 seconds. Cindy, 2 minutes 19 seconds. And Karen, 2 minutes 23 seconds. Speeches. Diane spoke with 7 minutes 28 seconds. Tom spoke with 7 minutes 15 seconds. And Briggs spoke with 5 minutes 37 seconds. Ryan, table topic evaluator, spoke with 3 minutes 57 seconds. Stephanie spoke 2 minutes 41 seconds. John spoke 3 minutes 13 seconds. And Cindy spoke 3 minutes 29 seconds. And when I did ask who had a longer speech, Tom spoke up. And I realized when I looked at the agenda that Diane also had a 6 to 8 minute speech. So I cut you off about 30 seconds too soon. Sorry, Diane. That's my report.
Yo!
Now I'd like to call on the owl counter, Vera, to give her report.
Thank you. Everyone did quite well this evening. Bob Burns had a butt 1 and a repeat 1. Rhonda had an extra N at one place. Art had 1 repeat. The ones that I don't name, I didn't catch anything, so you did really well. Karen had a so, and Ryan had 1 so and 2 ahs. Diane 1 repeat, John 1 ah, and Cindy 2 repeats, and you did really good. Thank you.
Wow. Yo!
Now from our grammarian, Art Atkinson.
I did not pick up any incorrect use of English this evening, but I did note down some particularly effective phrases and 2 users of our word of the evening. Both chose to use it as a noun, not as an adjective, but we'll get points. Alex said, I don't remember who he was speaking of as a visionary in his own way, and Bob said every speaker is a visionary. Rhonda had a particularly powerful phrase. She said, some dreams are medicine dreams. Alex, what is your dream season? A very intriguing question. Cindy, the whole discussion of you want to get a motorcycle license or do you want to get a pilot's license? And good, flying was what I wanted anyway. Diane, this perfect mom, recently divorced, decided that the kids were going to take swim lessons at 7:30 a.m. And again, my father interrogated, very powerful, strong word. John Tom describing his father, Captain, he said he was relentless. He wanted an answer. Tom's description that the glass just exploded everywhere when the door got slammed twice. Tom also with the phrase, nobody ever stood up for him. Cindy describing this talk that was just given, you have one heck of a speech. Rick has one heck of a speech. And Rick's description of going down to the boats, the smell of the salt air and the creaking of the ropes. You boat lovers, you were right there with me. Yeah, that was beautiful. That's my report.
Thank you. Now we'll call up the joke master, Bob Burns.
All right.
Well, I don't know where to put that one on. Wrong one though. Hee-haw. Well, there's this middle-aged motorcycle rider. Cindy could probably appreciate this, right? Driving down the road, just a great trip, and all of a sudden comes up on this bridge. And there's just a lot of confusion and commotion and difficulty, and there's just hundreds of people just standing around, and the motorcycle rider gets off his motorcycle, takes off his helmet, and he sees a policeman there and says, "Officer, what's going on here?" He says, "See that beautiful blonde girl over there? You know, she's fixing to jump from the bridge and commit suicide." He goes, "Really? Wow." He says, "Do you mind if I go over and talk to her?" He says, "I guess it won't hurt. Go ahead." So he goes over to this beautiful blonde, and she's standing up on the rail, and he says, "You know, could you just do me one favor?" And she looks at him and says, "Could you just give me a big kiss?" And so she reaches over and just gives him this great kiss. He goes, "Wow, man, that was really great. Could you just do it again?" And so sure enough, she bends over and gives him this long, intimate kiss. And he's just like mesmerized, and he says, "You know, by the way, why is it that you're ready to jump from this bridge and commit suicide?" And she looks at him and says, "Well, my parents just keep making fun of me for dressing up like a woman all the time." So, we're not really sure if he got pushed, or she got pushed, or she jumped.
Now I'll evaluate the evaluators and make some general comments about the meeting itself. All 3 or 4 evaluators demonstrated the sandwich technique, which is to start with praise, give some suggestion, and then end with encouragement. So they all follow that protocol. It's a great way to give an evaluation. It helps the receiver of those comments to be more open to comments and critiques. There were specific things that John did that I really enjoyed. One was he had a style of giving a wholeness at the beginning, giving us a picture of what the objectives were for the speech. In addition, you told elements of the story, but you didn't retell the story. You gave a really good analysis of some of the mechanics that took place as Tom told the story. So that was a wonderful way of sharing elements of the speech without retelling the whole thing. Cindy and John demonstrated the improvements that they made. Ryan did that too. Ryan did a really wonderful job of demonstrating how I should have used this stage more effectively. And that leaves a lasting impression. So demonstration was a good thing to add into the evaluation. On the whole, I have been observing how people end their speeches. To me, that's a really interesting point. In fact, it leaves a really strong impression. Even if you did a great speech, if you have a poor ending, that leaves a weak impression. One way is to end your speech with a very strong conclusion. Don't rely on a thank you to signal that you've arrived at the end. So, like Ricky gave a fabulous speech and you said thank you at the end. Instead, you could just have left it, you had a good conclusion, and then you can hand it over to the table, the Toastmaster. Tom demonstrates this continuously. When he's done, he motions to the Toastmaster, and that's the cue that the speech has ended. So that's one evaluation I give for the meeting as a whole. Stephanie, you did a wonderful evaluation. You did the sandwich technique. I felt like some wholeness was lacking. I wanted maybe a summative statement at the beginning, then wrap it up. Your wrap-up was, in general, it was good. So something a little more interesting or specific as a way to wrap up your evaluation. That was the only comment I had. Overall, I learned a lot from these evaluations, and I will incorporate some of what you've done myself. And I'd like to hand it back over to Bob Burns, our Toastmaster.
Excellent job, Karen. Thank you very much as a general evaluator. Now it's time for the awards. First, I'd like to bring up Briggs Star for the vocal variety. That's speech number 6 in the Competent Communicator Manual. So, thank you, Briggs. All right. Best table topics. All right. Come on, come on, come on. All right, that goes to Karen. Hey, Karen. Now for the best evaluator. And we're going to give that to John. All right, now the big one. Our best speaker happens to be Tom Trainer. Well, thank you, Toastmasters, for a wonderful meeting. Thank you, everybody at home, for joining us. And now I'd like to turn it over to our club president, Rhonda Whitaker.
All right.
Yo!
Also our timer. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob Burns. Wonderful Toastmaster job tonight. Well, thank you all for coming. It's been a wonderful meeting. We do conduct a little bit of business at the end of the meeting. And we do have an announcement about the contest, the international contest, the video that's available for us to watch. Ryan and Art had put their heads together and they said we could meet at Fairfield Nutrition on October 19th at 7 p.m. to watch this 2-hour video of the best speakers in the world. And I'm wondering if that agrees with anybody's schedule. If it agrees with your schedule, could you please stand up?
A week from Saturday.
It's a Saturday. Saturday week.
What time is it again?
Saturday night.
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
We have a big screen TV and an audio system and dozens of chairs.
Saturday night?
Saturday night,
That's
7
date
p.m.
Bring your
Popcorn?
Okay, that's about half the people. You can sit down if you like.
Yeah, I'm a maybe.
Well, Great show, everybody. We're stopping a little early tonight. If anybody has a piece of business they'd like to bring up that's important right now, now's the time to do it. Do we have any announcements?
Oh,
Stephanie?
Scott's giving a talk tomorrow night on depression at the library. If anyone is interested in coming, if you're depressed yourself or if you have a friend who may need help. You might need help.
What time, Stephanie?
7 p.m.
7 p.m. at the library tomorrow night.
Cool.
Should be very informative.
Our special meeting is coming up 2 weeks from tonight. Be prepared, tell your friends. Alex is our featured speaker. We're going to have a lot of great people. Even Ed Hipp is coming back to do an encore of the crazy panel leader. That alone is worth seeing.
Yes, it is.
Tom Trainer is our chair for that contest. He's doing it as a high performance leadership project for his Advanced Leadership Silver. If anyone else has some desire to advance in their leadership awards, please talk to Dan Craig or myself.
Please
Next.
plan on staying a few minutes late next week. We need to put together table toppers, no more than 10 minutes if all of us help. It's just table toppers and pass out posters. Please stay a few minutes next week.
Thank you,
Question.
Tom.
Is this to be a refreshments meeting also?
Yes, Vera will take care of that next week.
Has that been
Vera's going to take care of it.
next week?
She'll do it next
We'll
week.
arrange that.
Too soon.
Tom's on top of it. He's got everything under control.
I
Great
think.
job, Tom. With that, we will adjourn our meeting until 7:30 next week here in the basement of the United Methodist Church, the corner of B Street and Briggs. Please come. We want to enjoy life with you.
Yay!